So, good morning. Let's meditate. So, take your attention all the way down to your tailbone, the tip of your tailbone. Can you hear okay? Okay, good. And inhale into that space at the tip of the tailbone and move your attention just a half an inch forward. And there is a very important point there. It's an acupuncture point, but it's also the what I understand to be the opening of the Sushumna, which is the central channel. So it's actually an inner space that, yes, we can feel you centering into it. And if you align that with the point where the hard palate meets the soft palate in your mouth, you will be in the physical alignment with the central channel. So we'd like you to find that before we start and feel for that connection so that your meditation becomes more physically tangible, even though it's an energetic event. So breathing into that space just in front of the tip of the tailbone. Take all of your attention there. Let your attention drop so that it's no longer in your head, but near the base of your spine, near the absolute tip of the tailbone. And it is by holding our attention in these energy centers and installing, for now, the Om sound into these energy centers. Really, we're reawakening. They're only dormant because of lack of attention. We're reawakening that which is our source inside of us. Now, the truth is, every cell is connected to source, but these energy centers are special junction points that are easier to bring into our awareness as we change our focus from what happens in the external world to what creates what happens in the external world. So we're coming to be in touch with and understand more and more how the more subtle inner experience powers that which we perceive. So what we're going to do is repeat the Om sound in each energy center 9 times while we work our way up the channel. And we'll let you know when each energy center feels complete to us. So we'll begin now and guide you through the central channel, starting just in front of the tip of the tailbone. moving to the energy center just below the belly button. But in the same line of the central channel. So back much more toward the vertebral column. Breathing into that center, we'll do the Om sound 9 times. And you can think of it on your exhale, lengthening your exhale and holding your attention in the energy center. Moving to the solar plexus. Moving to the heart center. Moving to the throat center. Moving to the third eye. And now above the head. And now we'll meditate for a few minutes, feeling the circulation of the energy flow. And now, as you feel ready, holding your attention in the sacred space, allow yourself to gently open your eyes and be present in two dimensions at the same time. As we steadily practice our increasing dimensional awareness. We're so happy to be with you today. Welcome. How may we serve? What's been happening? Good morning.
Hello. Can we do a quick review of the meditation? Are we on the inhale doing the Om, or I'm a little lost in there.
Well, you can do the Om on the inhale, the exhale, or both.
Okay.
You can do it expanding into each energy center or traveling up and down the central channel. Whatever feels right to you for the practice, what you need to be open, centered, and flowing is what is appropriate. That's why we aren't giving narrow rules.
Okay.
Because experience isn't narrow and it changes every day and sometimes on every breath.
Right.
And so what we want to foster is an understanding that we're a dynamic system, constantly changing, so that we get in the habit of instant forgiveness and redirecting and non-judgment about what we're experiencing, so that everything is fine.
Yeah.
There's not this feeling that, I'm doing it wrong, or I don't understand it, or I
Yeah.
can't feel it, because we all, we're so used to having rules about everything that we do. And dimensional awareness is about expanding all the rules and allowing them to be fluid, because what's appropriate for one dimension is completely restrictive for the next, and vice versa. And so we need to free ourselves from judgment to and allow ourselves to just be curious, to actually witness instead of trying to do something.
Well, that's perfect, because I've been feeling some things going on, and I'm still just um, sort of playing with it. To
Play is the exact state, that's the exact word that we were looking for. Play is a
or
better word than curiosity.
play is learning to play is a good thing for me.
Yeah, I think it's really important. We've all been so dumbed down by, the the density of the experience that's surrounding the earth right now.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the complexity of the external world and darkness.
Yeah.
It's just, it's unfathomable. uh, so any inner work involves a dimensional shift.
Well, I love that the source is connected, of course, to every cell in our body. And just with that saying, it's like, ah, yes, of course.
Yes, there's no way to disconnect, but we feel
Unless we do it.
disconnected. We feel
Yeah.
disconnected because we don't hold our attention on anything real.
Yeah.
You know,
Ah, interesting
everything
point. Yeah.
everything outside is not real.
Right. That,
I mean, it doesn't mean that it doesn't have impact.
yeah.
It all has impact. And there's a way in which we make it real by allowing it to have impact.
Hmm.
And then it's destroying our inner consciousness.
Right. The grabbing on to certain things that might be frustrating or personal that isn't, or you could go in any number of
Yeah,
directions.
yeah, anything.
Anything. Yeah.
And at the same time, we really fear that if we completely let go into the all that is, that we'll never come back.
That's
And
some,
the truth is that we know the way back.
mhm.
We couldn't forget it if we wanted to, unless there's some unnatural chemistry that takes over, some kind of dementia chemistry, that or true insanity. But and even then, if we are in ultimate awareness, ultimate reality, what's been lost?
You just go with it, huh?
Exactly. Now,
Well, it just discussing this just opens the body up in discussion, and so that's the
it's
important thing.
interesting, as we said that, we felt a tremor of fear in Rebecca.
Uh-huh.
Dementia is a big fear for her, because her father had Alzheimer's
Oh,
disease,
oh,
and Andrew's mother. So we both kind of live under that
yeah.
that 50% uh, curse.
possibility.
Yes. And it feels like a curse.
Yeah, it's amazing, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you know, it's interesting that this has just come up because this week, so there's a lunar eclipse on Wednesday on the 18th. And oh wait, it's the 18th in India, so it might be the 17th here.
Uh-huh.
But anyway, it's the beginning of the festival of Shraddha, which is the time where we uh, worship the ancestors.
Mm.
We um, allow ourselves to release any negativity that has been held. And
Wow.
you know, it's an interesting conversation that Rebecca's been involved with, a self conversation about the difference between transcendence and transformation.
Mm.
And so it's a time to transform the belief system
Mm.
so that the transcendence actually encompasses transformation. And so it's a time to face the negativity connected to ancestor behavior and truly transform it. And this happens in the Inasa temple.
Mhm. Yeah, that's interesting. I've been a lot with my grandmother and her belief systems, and kind of, I think I was talking with you about my feeling the lineage of that, and so that's really powerful. Yeah,
Well, it's
good timing.
interesting. Yes, it's interesting that it's naturally coming up with the timing of the festival.
Yeah.
And the festival itself reaches its culmination on October 2nd, which is the solar eclipse.
Oh.
And then there is a releasing period into the new understanding that there is a partial lunar eclipse on, again, either the 17th or the 18th of October, which is the completion of the transformation.
It does seem a little thick out there energetically.
Yes, and we're experiencing also inner thickness, you
Yeah,
know.
inner is how I feel it. Yeah.
Yeah, this call to transform that which needs to be
Mhm.
transcended so that it
Mhm.
can actually be transcended in a real way
Mhm.
rather than you know, there's a way to look at everything from a position of light, which causes it to appear to lose its connection to this reality. But that is a temporary kind of
Mhm.
pseudo transcendence, we'll call it.
Mm.
That the
Interesting.
real transcendence happens through transformation. And though we may have evolved the capacity to turn anything to light, that is not transformation until we have really changed the pattern inside ourselves, the reaction pattern. So
That
there's,
that is what feels so thick. Of course.
yes,
There
yes.
it
And
is.
so that's why this conversation about transformation and transcendence is really an internal
Mhm.
dialogue to
Mhm.
have
Mhm.
so that we can admit where we are
Yeah.
and think about, not think about, but actually take to the Inasa temple and ask to be shown how to transform,
Oh, yes.
or how to release ourselves from these patterns, ancestral patterns that we, you know, bring blame and shame into our field of reality.
Yeah, that's
Uh,
big.
because we have yet to transform them
Right.
in ourselves so that we can move to a more true state of transcendence. So this is a really important way that we need to be honest with ourselves.
Yep.
It's
Yep.
an important conversation to have.
I've been asking myself and kind of in this, and just, of course, it brings it all up, but on the other hand, I'm seeing, I'm feeling the changes going on, and it's
Yeah.
not been easy, but
Oh, yeah.
it's
You and I have such similar astrology. There's no, questioning why we're going through
yeah,
the same pattern in the same moments,
yeah,
because, only days separate
right,
our birth,
yeah,
which is really ours.
yeah. Well, pretty interesting.
Yes, it's a really interesting time. I mean, those days and hours do make a big difference, because it means that, well, the two things that shift in that amount of time are really the house of birth. So, really what realm these experiences happen in for you,
Mhm.
and the house of the moon, which is where emotionally the experiences take place.
Mhm.
I mean, that the house of the ascendant is the um the character and the outlook and the um individuality, the individual identity, whereas the moon is the emotional
Mhm.
outlook and the um the emotional identity,
Yeah.
which we know can be different.
Mhm.
And
Yeah. That's of course, I don't know my astrology very well, or that, or when I was born, but it sure feels like the moon stuff really gets in there for me.
well, yes. Well, the moon changes nakshatras, which are um 12-degree and 30-minute segments of the sky. There are 27 of them. It changes nakshatras every day.
Huh.
And each nakshatra has its own energetic signature. And they're very different, and they have different rulers, planetary rulers. It happens in a sequential order, of course, but they have different planetary rulers than the ruler of the sign where they're located.
Hmm.
And so it makes for a triple complexity that's added to each house.
It's a good thing all parts are welcome. That's all I got to say.
Yeah,
In
well,
my
it just
simplicity.
makes it, there's so many, I mean, it's astral chess. And
And yeah. And
and
the God is in every cell.
yes, God and goddess.
God and goddess, yes. Yes.
And so, which brings us to the principle of opposites. And we're going to talk about equanimity again in as the if you look at our awareness as a globe rather than a bicycle tire, and equanimity as the sum of all the parts, the center of all the opposites, then you see why transformation and transcendence are two very different concepts. And how having experienced light and ourselves as light beings, we can get confused about transcendence and transformation, because having evolved the capacity to shine the light on the darkness can delude us into thinking that we have transcended the darkness by shining the light on it where it appears to disappear. But then it always comes back if we have yet to transform it. And this is what this spiral of transformation, that's what we'll call it now, is about, that we reveal deeper and deeper layers of the things we have yet to transform by shining the light of our transcendent accomplishment.
That sounds big.
Well, it's just a different way of looking at things.
Yeah.
Because we're in evolutionary process, but at the same time, it's a breath away, that transcendent state. And so, but transformation is a process. But we can't really achieve equanimity without transformation.
Yeah.
Transcendence itself is not enough.
Right. Because you could kind of remove yourself
exactly
from the other.
And what will happen when you do that is that real life will constantly anchor you back into what has yet to be transformed, because that's what karma is. And so this karma is that which has been gifted to us by our ancestors to transform.
Well, this is such a great conversation to me, as I'm learning, however I'm learning, is to be patient and so forgiving of this process, and trying to do the best you can as these situations, as parts of ourselves come up with the transformation. Or this is big stuff.
This is big stuff.
Yeah.
This is really big stuff.
Yeah.
And we can see why, other people fall down.
Sure.
And have real compassion for it.
Well, the conditioning is so deep.
Yes.
And
this is why we call it matrix of belief.
Right.
Because it's a matrix that sucks us back into that which has yet to be transformed. And it's so beautiful that as long as we stay curious, we have a chance.
Thank you for that.
Yes. And the truth is, it doesn't matter in a big way how much we transform, because we have no idea what wholeness is.
Yeah.
Except through, what we would now call the illusion of transcendence. Because we get this facility with light to apparently transcend anything because we can do it for moments.
Right.
And then we have this glimpse of what it is to feel whole.
Yes.
But then we get pulled back by that which we have yet to transform. And
Well, it's just a miracle we get through life and have have peace in our hearts. I don't know.
yes, yes, peace, peace is the goal.
Well, this is big, big stuff. Great conversation.
Yeah,
Thank you.
yeah, you're getting our inner conversation real time.
Thank you so much.
You're so welcome. Yes.
This conversation just shifted my perspective on the nagging problem of our relationship with our daughter. Um, she, what I hear in her attempts to whatever she's doing, um, she's used the word spiritual bypass. And I realize that what she's calling out is the transcendence without the transformation. And she wants the transformation. I can hear that. Now, how she's going about it is provides obstacles to it directly with her. The communication is essentially blocked with her, but the internal transformation of the situation seems to be up.
Well, the fact that
Of
she's talking spiritual anything is progress. That has even entered the conversation. And it's probably entered by way of some therapy. But spiritual
actually,
bypass is a real thing. That's what we're talking about.
people have described her as a very spiritual person because she knows a lot about a lot of things
Well, she
in
grew up with you guys, so how could she not
yeah,
know a
yeah,
lot
there
about
you
a
go.
lot of things?
So, but what was interesting was what she calls spiritual bypass sounds to me like she's calling out transcendence without transformation.
Absolutely, she is. And she's just looking in the wrong direction to experience that within herself.
Right. It's not within herself at this point. It
Right.
seems
It's
to
about
be
blame and
that she
shame
needs us to
outside.
do. Yeah,
Yeah.
she needs us to do something. Um, and it's never been clear what she feels that she's suffered at our hands. I mean, she calls it abuse, and are looking back at our history with her, there was no abuse. I mean, it might have felt like it to her. I mean, I'll allow that, but it didn't come from our behaviors or wishes in the matter. So, I'm not sure. I can't deal with that. I can't deal with her, what she sees and what she has recorded or whatever. But I can look at, be curious about the transformation that's necessary within me
Absolutely.
about the situation. So that's very interesting. It's like step one, and and transcendence may be the ultimate um whatever the result, but that's not what one goes for first. One
Well,
is look.
what happens with true transformation is that compassion grows. And with the recognition of how difficult it is to actually transform, and the experience over and over of, what feels like Sisyphean uh, task in trying to transform ourselves, that the compassion that grows for anyone, especially someone who's a beginner on the path and hasn't yet understood that the work is inside rather than, trying to force the world to conform to your goal of whatever that you can't even articulate because you're too uncomfortable to do anything but project blame and shame, which are the lowest states that exist for a human being. So the amount of compassion that you can generate toward her without it being pity, but general respect for what's possible. And from that perspective, your own transformation will take shape. And you can
Yeah.
only expect from her what she is willing to accept responsibility for. And as long as that hasn't happened, anything that you try to put into that physical situation will come back at you in a very weird way.
Yes, that is so true. That is so true. Um, the compassion has been growing since the beginning, actually. Um, it's hard to know, what the another person is thinking, but knowing what a challenge it is to transform myself, I do not want to judge anybody else uh, for where they are. Um, really, it all comes back to wanting the highest best for the other person. Um,
Absolutely. And there you go,
there's
right back to the Inasa temple, really speaking
exactly,
to the highest self. And you can already see some evidence that transformation is taking place. And we have nothing to do with the pace of other people's work. That's not our
no,
responsibility.
that's so true.
All we can do is keep engaging the highest self of the other. And essentially we are putting our energy into effective prayer by going to a safe, neutral space in a Nasa temple and asking for the highest best, and inviting that person and handing them our energy dedicated to their highest best to use as they possibly can from the highest place in us. And that's
Yeah,
the best we can do. Any engagement in this plane, it won't
it
help.
won't work. Yeah,
Yeah.
it won't work. We've tried it for like at least 6 years. So, I
Yeah.
mean, that's been proven time and time again. Um, so
What we
that
would
channel is
encourage
blocked.
you, what we would encourage you to do is to see if it's possible for you to get past some of the electronic blocks in your environment to be able to have direct communication to the children. the grandchildren.
Oh, that's exactly what. Okay, so our son-in-law, supposedly ex-son-in-law, but he's
Our son.
we see him as our son. He is our son. He stopped by unexpectedly yesterday, and we brought out our new cell phone that our daughter-in-law, our our son, our biological son's wife gave us, and started on uh
The path.
the education of how to use it. And it is so complicated because we have trouble receiving cell service here. Everybody does. And so we have to do service, we have to get a service. But the complications of using the device, um, my brain does not want to go there. I I have trouble concentrating, remembering.
Write everything down. Don't try to remember it. Just write it down.
But there's a resistance there that says, I do not want to do this in my life. I
Put a
don't want
picture of
to.
your grandchildren up.
I have them all over the place, but the
Look at them and then look at your resistance.
okay, and then, but I'm saying, what am I going to say to them? Even if I can communicate with them, I don't have anything to say to them, but I have
Well,
questions.
you can go to the Anasa temple and learn that,
Yeah,
really understand. Really, all you want to say to them is that you want to connect
love
and
them.
love them.
Yeah.
But, how you do that is speaking their language. And so learning their language is where you're starting with being able to communicate in their medium. This is all they
Mhm.
know. They have grown up with nothing but cell phones and computers. And so they're diametrically at the opposite pole of the electronic universe from you. And if you truly want to communicate from where they are to where they are, it's absolutely, it's imperative that you learn their language. And
Okay, well, I'll keep going with that process, but the fact is the device world seems so limiting and so connected to the matrix of belief of the society. It seems like there's such a narrow form of communication. It's like trying to stuff um something through a straw. And I just I have no faith in it, really, is where it comes down to. I hear what you're saying about it being their form of communication, and I will continue to try to make my brain work in that way.
well, uh, you'll be amply rewarded for every step you take in that direction because it will give you communication with these two creative beings who live in a different world, who will be very willing to share. Everybody everybody in our generation needs a 9-year-old who knows everything about computers because that's all they've ever done to instruct us. And it's a certain kind of humility, but that's required to get into that world. But once you do, you will have amazing access to people who know how it works. we're sure that your grandchildren know how it works.
Yeah, they do. And I don't have a 9-year-old, but I do have a 16 and a 19-year-old.
So there you go. They're a lot more sophisticated with it, so they may get frustrated, but they'll
with
still,
my ignorance.
yes, because for them it's an assumption. It's like, how could you not know that will be what you get a lot? Because they will be in disbelief that that you could be in this state of unknowing.
They are very patient beings.
There you go. You've got your teachers waiting for you. You just have to enter the environment. They will be so delighted to share your world as you share theirs. And that's
Really?
that's absolutely. You just told us how patient they are. They want to join your world. They don't know how. And, your physical access has been denied for a very long time.
Yeah.
And so you are denying yourselves the capacity for communication by not becoming electronically literate.
Okay.
Yes.
Well, I must admit I had a lot of resistance too, because I didn't feel quite smart enough. And I was really resistant to it. But and my functioning isn't huge, but I think the most important things is learning how to take a picture photograph and send it with text. If you can text and learn to take your a photograph and send it, which is quite easy, you kind of be covered there, because you could point out what's growing in your yard or something new that's going on with the text, or look what's blooming, look what's going on around me that I love. And those are with my nieces. Well, they're in their 30s now, later 30s, but that's mostly all that seems to go on between us all. And I can always tell when everyone's chatting, and when my sister as well, because there'll be so many. I hear the little text sound. I go, okay, here we go. Wonder what's going on. Or someone's traveling, or so. That's just my story. And those couple of things I think can get you by with quite a bit. Maybe.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
rather than learning it all, and there's a nice calculator on there, and a couple other things that are pretty easy, pretty basic. So that's just my little 2 cents there.
And the other thing is you can always go to the beginning and say, how do I? And you will instantly get directions to do anything you want to do online. How to take a picture, how to take a screenshot, how to, everything you'll get, number 1, number 2, number 3, and you follow those steps and you can do whatever. So you can always say, how do I?
It's kind of cosmic that we live in a relatively difficult zone for reception and transmission via the devices.
Well, you did that on purpose because it's where you feel
Yeah,
most connected to nature, which is what you really want.
that's absolutely true.
Yes. And so, but in this day and age, it's now hard to find a space where you can't connect. So we think it's closer than your experience would have you believe.
Okay, I'll take that.
So we're happy to have the conversation, really happy to have the conversation, because it's relevant to all of us to think about how to address our resistance to whatever. because resistance is resistance. And, you know, it's interesting from an astrological perspective, there are various things built into all of our matrix of belief that encourage resistance. It's just built into the structure of who and what we are. And so it's very important that when we meet resistance in ourselves, that we be curious about it and not allow it to gain the traction to keep us from expanding our world. And this happens with everybody, like with exercise, with diet, with just the being good to ourselves in doing what we know is the best, in our own highest best, that we often will meet resistance and use it to encourage our bad habits or what we have yet to transcend or transform. And so we all do it, and we all do it in all kinds of arenas that have yet to be recognized. At this moment, you know, the festival is making peace with the ancestors, which means transforming our resentment into appreciation and a sense of awe at what our ancestors were able to overcome. And so it means creating a new context for our matrix of belief, in our matrix of belief, to be able to make an offering to our ancestors. And transform our resistance into personal power. Which is what happens whenever we transform resistance, it becomes personal power. We become empowered. And that's the promise of transformation. And that empowering leads to further capacity to transcend. And then we must always be asking, is this transcendence or transformation? And which is which? And what do we really need? What really serves? And curiosity is always the way in. Because that doesn't have judgment to it. It's giving ourselves the opening to new experience, to new matrix of belief. It's allowing us to clean our dirty socks. Simple. So we boiled it down to laundry.
I love that image. Yeah, that works.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
Well, and so we do this offering to our ancestors in and around the full moon. Would be this week, this Tuesday or Wednesday.
Yeah, we start we start on the lunar eclipse, which we think is Wednesday. And we celebrate on the 2nd of October, which is the solar eclipse. And we appreciate on the 17th or 18th, which is a partial lunar eclipse of October. And so this is kind of a 4-week arc between, starting with one new moon and ending on the other. No, starting with one full moon and ending on the other. The full moon is on Wednesday. That's the lunar eclipse. And the new moon is on October 2nd. How may we serve further today? Thank you so much for your questions. They've really, really brought up the conversation. Mm-hmm.
Oh, one other nice thing about your cell phone, it has a very simple spelling check on it, or ask for information, and you just hit this little thing and ask verbally, how do you spell this, or where is this, and it'll just give you the answer. So that's another a little tip. I always go to that. So it's just simple. Eventually it becomes simple to use these things. So
Yeah, there's also a function called autocorrect, which I have yet to learn to disable, but it's pretty funny what it does to your sentences sometimes. Especially if you're trying to type out medical words. That the spell check doesn't know. It will, between the time that you actually write it down and push send, it will change the word to something completely other than what you're trying to say.
We had that experience last night. Aaron was having to uh, change. Oh no, they did that. It did that. That's not right. But one of the things that is really seems important is to view this journey, if you will, as starting out with curiosity instead of like homework.
Dismay.
Well, it felt like homework, do all these math problems, and bring in the correct answers. But curiosity is a whole other mode
Oh
of
yeah,
approach.
it just lightens it up quite a bit.
Yes.
Yes, yes.
I wish I could adapt that whole process to doing my taxes. Because I have to finish that because I did an extension. And I tell you, it almost makes me physically ill facing that process, because there's so much verbiage that I don't understand, or the difference between column C and column D, and not that, and subtract this, and it just baffles me. But I think that there is some in this, what we've been talking about here that can be applied as well, I think.
Also, there's respect for the amount of stimulation that can be handled in one setting. And so you know, do what you can for 15 minutes and then walk away for 3 hours. Then you do what you can for 15 minutes and you walk away, and you'll be amazed at how much you can accomplish with breaks like that. But if you sit down and say, I'm going to do this today, you're doomed. That's our experience, because and then if you can, look at it with curiosity and make questions out of what you don't understand and type them into your phone, you will get faster. What does this word mean? And, think of it this way: every word that you learn is going to make your next tax experience easier. And so you're educating yourself. The alternative is to pay someone, and if your taxes are not complicated, they charge by time. If your taxes are not complicated, it might be worth, what it takes to get somebody else to do it. If they're fairly simple. If they're complicated, then, look up what you can look up, write down what it says so you don't have to look it up again in some context that you can reference it when you need it. And, it's about education. Yeah, but that heavy feeling that you have whenever you think of it, if that feeling could become curiosity instead. And the way you get to it is by understanding your own process. And so what we see is, I'm going to do this now, and then 10 minutes into it, I really can't do this. And instead of being curious about what answers might be available at your fingertips that you can't see, the sense of failure gets perpetuated. But really, every one of these processes can be used as a learning experience about how to fill in the knowledge we don't have at this moment that's keeping us from completing a task. There's a little bit of light in there now. Yeah, and breathing. The first thing that happens is you run into something you don't understand and you stop breathing. And stopping breathing makes us all feel miserable instantly because we don't have access to our own vitality. We've just shut ourselves down to the task at hand. So the first thing is to breathe. And then we get our mind and our faculties back. And then you say, well, what's the question here? And if you can make a question out of what you don't understand, then you can ask the computer. The computer is more and more skilled at answering our questions, especially about taxes, because you're certainly not the only one with this problem at this moment. So the computer is already geared to answer your questions because everybody else is asking them this month.
But it can't do anything without the input. For example,
Well, you can say,
adding up the things that you need to have saved and organized.
oh, yes, but you can say, on page 3, line C, what does this question mean? And yes, it can't do anything about what you haven't saved, but you know, for example, if you have a credit card statement and no receipt, you still have proof. So, you know, you just have to look up the credit card statement. That's most of those things can be solved in that way.
I like the 15 minutes at a time because I tend to say, well, you're doing it now. And if you go away, you're going to have to meet the same resistance trying to come back. So I keep trying to push through and then I make mistakes. So that was a really good suggestion.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, and accept 15 minutes and then accept however long it takes for you to reset. And this is, you know, there are numerous tasks that we have to do in this way, and respect our own tolerance and learn about what it is so that we can work for ourselves and not be in our own way all the time. You know, so it's curiosity about how you learn goes a long way toward eliminating, not eliminating resistance, but learning how to work with it. And, you know, the shutdowns become less frequent because we expect them and we're ready for them. Oh, this means this is all I can do right now. Time to change the channel and do something you really love. And that doing what you really love can be a reward for, you know, facing what's really hard instead of having the whole thing be tied into negativity. So we can learn to work with ourselves instead of against ourselves with these tasks that, you know, and we'll let you know that we too have the October 15th deadline. And way more complexity than we ever intended to have in this life. And I'll tell you what our experience continues to be, that is that we have had the same lifestyle forever, and the zeros just get more. So it looks like there's prosperity, but it's been the same lifestyle forever. There are just more zeros after the numbers. And, you know, I suppose that's inflation.
More zeros in the pluses and the minuses, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. And more complexity, like unimaginable complexity.
Well, isn't that life? I tell you.
Yes, yes. And that's also aging. So we're running out of time here, we just realized, but this conversation has been so valuable. And we're so grateful for your participation today. So we can either take one more question or comment or go into meditation. We're welcome and open to either.
Well, I just want to say hi to Constance.
Yes, we're so glad you're here.
Thank you so much. That's so sweet of you. Rebecca, I sent you a chat. I don't know that it went through, but there's a suggested mantra for the lunar eclipse on Tuesday is what I show. And I was wondering if you could help us with the pronunciation. Did that chat come through?
Let's see if we can
It was
access it.
sent to Anasa.
Let's see if we can access it. Oh, Om Priti Bio Namah. It's really Namaha. Whenever you see something that says Namah, it's Namaha. And
Uh-huh.
and
Namaha.
the Petries are the ancestors. So it's making the case for what we already said. Petri is spelled Pitri, and Petri Bio is Petri plus Bhyo, and that's pronounced bio. The
Okay.
the H is sort of there, Bhyo, Petri Bio. So you start with Om. Om Petri Bio Namaha.
Oh, perfect.
Can everybody see that chat?
I just sent it to Anasa, so maybe I should share
Okay.
it with everybody.
Well, Brenda will send it out later when she gets home. So everybody will get it from a conversations with a NASA
And that
email.
that mantra is preceded by Pitru Paksha. What does that mean?
Petri Paksha.
Uh-huh.
I'm not sure what Paksha is, but I'm pretty sure that it has to do with the celebration of the ancestors.
Oh,
Petri is
okay.
ancestors.
I see. Thank
And
you.
the name of the festival is called Shraddha, Shradda. Shraddha.
I had GA. Okay.
So yes, thank you for that mantra. So much love to you all. We're so grateful for this conversation. Have a beautiful week, and we'll carry on next week. So much love. Bye for now.